Doubleheader. The doubleheader is about to begin. Game 2 for LGD within just a short 24-hour turnaround is just a few minutes from beginning as the LPL is back. We're here on this wonderful Saturday in the venue in Shanghai, but still LGD are loading up in their venue to get ready and try to turn around after a pretty difficult defeat yesterday. But you can see they appear to be in remarkably high spirits, laughing and smiling as they get ready for their matchup against FPX. Imp working so hard lately for his team, putting out some massive numbers. Is going to have to do some serious work here against FPX. But welcome everyone. My name is Dom. We've got Rusty here with us, and we are hype as heck because FPX versus LGD, and more importantly, our game of the week is happening just a little bit later today. But Rusty, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm excited. How are you?
I'm also, to a degree, excited, Dom. I am very happy to see an FPX team play. LGD are also explosive, right? So the first set's just good to watch. The second set, match of the week, every reason to be here and to stay around through this first set for that. So yes, I'm definitely excited with you. You're not just jumping the gun. Yeah. You just didn't ask if I was there with you, Dom, but we're both there.
I just assume it's a double barrel shotgun. We're both in the cartridge together, ready to be launched in. Exactly. Yeah. But again, let's take a look at our standings before we get into these matchups. Of course, with yesterday's games, LGD dropped their set against the likes of Vici, ceding over their first win and leaving Vici at 1-9.
Yeah, LGD against Vici. I mean, congratulations to Vici. They've got a brand new house still in Shanghai, and they get themselves perhaps a brand new identity with the clean victory. Easyhoon looked fantastic. Of course, LGD are the problem alongside that, but let's just take this moment looking at the standings to say well done to ADC Gaming.
Finally on the board. Of course, we also must congratulate OMG on their new stadium and sooning their opponents on taking the first win in that new stadium.
The curse continues, Dom. Every single time you have a new stadium, you are guaranteed to lose that first set. Sooning Gaming looked very clean. They looked fantastic, and they just played super good League of Legends. OMG, they played Aatrox. They lost. No one was surprised. But the end result, congratulations, Sooning.
Yeah, takeaway, don't play Aatrox in your solo queue games. But still, we've got our matches coming up. FPX versus LGD. Again, the double header for LGD going back-to-back both last night and now tonight. And just afterwards, our match of the week. Invictus Gaming versus Edward Gaming. Jackie Love versus iBoy.
That is the place you have to direct your attention towards. IG well and truly first on the ladder, 8-1. They look like definitively the #1 team in the league still as we go through to week 5, and we're looking to see if things change for them. If EDG, a team with a lot of potential, can actually find themselves and bring it back. But the last time we saw EDG, they were absolutely flogged by Rogue Warriors in a one-sided affair. It was crazy. And do Rogue Warriors look good or EDG behind? We were going to find out tonight.
Exactly. Today is the test to find out whether that's the case. But still, our first matchup, FPX versus LGD. Now, we've got a lot to talk about here. But first, I think we should start with what the standings implications mean. With LGD's loss yesterday, that puts them at 3-6, I believe, and falling further away from that middle of the pack, looking for that third, fourth place spot. Because again, you have to be in the top 4 to make it into playoffs.
Yeah, it's very important for LGD that they stay away from the last place position firstly, and they are a little bit away. They've got a couple of wins, of course, to distance themselves, so that's a nice thing to have, but they're more so looking at the 4th place right now. They're trying to get up to 4th, to 3rd, to make the playoffs better for them. But to get there, you cannot drop games like they did yesterday. You cannot afford to lose to teams that are on the leaderboard worse than you are and have been performing worse than you have been. And that always just comes back to LGD, right? Like the standings implications for playoffs are a big deal, but it's LGD that fall on their own sword most of the time regardless, and are the ones who stop themselves from getting to that playoffs run. Their opponents, FPX, still in a very similar place on the standings as to how they need to continue to climb. But I feel like we're seeing progressively better things from FPX every week, where LGD is starting to decline just that little bit.
It'll be tough to see if they turn it around, but FPX are so brutal. Here you can see they picked up a Baron about 21 minutes in against their last set against TOP, and then immediately turned and team fought with it. This isn't a team that just sits back and sieges. This is a team that will dive and fight and skirmish and kill.
And this is why you should be excited for the first set today. If you're not a fan of the LPL, or if you are, you need to have reasons to continue to watch the LPL, and it's always going to be FunPlus Phoenix. Win or lose, the games are exciting, and that's what I like the most about them, is they take the aggressive plays. Just there you saw them beating TOP, getting team fights. They'll always take the team fights, and it's something that makes it really enjoyable to watch, and something that is different to most other regions of the world.
You're exactly right. As I believe the Dive had a great conversation about the LPL and looking at play styles, how the LPL has a tendency not to remove mistakes from play, but to force your opponent to make mistakes and capitalize on those weaknesses. And if there's a team that characterizes that play style, it's got to be FPX.
Yeah, you could go very very deep into this conversation, but we'll keep it reasonably light. Of course, there is a cultural difference between the LPL and the LCK, which is the region that everyone else tries to emulate. And what's cool about the LPL is that instead of just playing perfect League of Legends, we force you to play not perfect League of Legends. We force mistakes from you, force errors from you, and it means that whilst we don't play perfect, you play less perfect, and that makes us better than you in any particular game or set that we play. And to me, that mantra is exciting, it's explosive, and it's an action-filled game that makes you want to watch more League of Legends from this region, and FPX is the perfect example of that. They always take the aggressive plays, they do crazy things, they pick crazy champions, and they throw crazy scenarios at you to try and force you to react in circumstances where you may not know what the answer actually is.
And it is kind of interesting when you contrast that with the likes of LGD's playstyle, because LGD, they're not exactly a chill team. They're not going to sit back. If they're losing, they're not going to slowly lose objectives and try to stall the game out. They're going to 5-man group in Pixel Brush and see if they can find a pick. 5-man invade the jungle.
Yeah, I mean, they might try to play slow, but it's never going to last for long. You've got Eimy in the jungle for LGD, who's someone that tries to be passive, tries to facilitate vision, and if he's working with PYL, then the vision will be nice for them. But then you have to look past that for LGD, and what is their actual strategies, particularly when they're losing, because so much of it comes down to laning phase for LGD, and that their bottom lane feels this need to win. Their top lane needs to have a carry top lane, and they need to have this winning matchup. And if they ever lose those lanes, then suddenly their team fighting is worse because of the champions and the playstyles that they have. And they do try and fight their way out of these holes that they dig themselves into, but the composition isn't designed to fight your way out of it effectively. So they go down even further, and they're just never digging up.
And of course, when you compare that with FPX on the other side, they're looking at this and they're smiling. Gimgoon says, you want to take a carry top lane? I will counteract you with a carry top lane of my own. Pepper is happy to invade and split up the duo of Eimy and PYL. And Bing is really starting to come into his own against the likes of Yuuki as well. That could be a good matchup.
Bing has been known so far in this split as someone who has stage fright, someone who hasn't been playing excellently, and we heard from him himself saying he was very nervous to come into the first split of LPL for him, and it is his first split. We're only 5 weeks in, so rightly so, he's still shaking off the nerves and trying to find his potential and actually reach the ceiling that he can reach. And from what we know of Bing so far, he's been pretty sound, but he plays control mages, and he hasn't been the determining factor for this side. It has been the rest of the map, and for me, I always look towards the jungle for FPX because he wins or loses the game at like level 3. There's no other thing in this game that influences it more. Yes, you've got an aggressive bottom lane. Yes, you've got a crazy Korean top laner that can pick Kled and Urgot, and he does. But Pepper invades, and if he sees someone, he's just going to all in on them. And sometimes he asks for forgiveness, not permission. And very rarely has asking for forgiveness been a good thing because he's died at level 3.
I mean, we'll have to see if his team is able to support him. Perhaps FPX could come into this with a bit of a rehearsed strategy to further split apart the likes of LGD, because you can see LGD, even after losing to a team that didn't have a single series win before them, are laughing and smiling. Imp and PYL, who have been playing so hard these past few weeks, don't look concerned.
And this is something that we said at the start of the show and should be true for LGD. They lost to a team that just outclassed them on the day. And yes, it's actually devastating to lose that. The standings implications, the playoffs implications are very real. But Vici looked so good and so clean, and no one saw that coming. And LGD honestly may not have seen it coming themselves and said, well, it happens. We've got another game tomorrow. Let's focus on that coming game. And they are all smiles, which is a very big positive, just seeing their faces, knowing that they do seem to be very much ready for today.
Yeah, and here we've got our lineups. FPX, you've got Gimgoon in the top lane, Pepper in the jungle, Bing in the mid lane with LWX and Crisp bringing up the bottom.
We mentioned Pepper's aggression, the fact that Gimgoon's crazy. Well, LWX and Crisp like to join into that grouping, and they play super aggressive as hyper carries themselves. The late game guarantee is never always going to be a guarantee with FPX, and that's a big problem for the side.
And of course, their opponents on the other side of the rift, the people that FPX need to bring down today. Perhaps they might be favored coming into this, especially considering they did just suffer that defeat yesterday in the likes of their home arena. It is LGD, Jinoo in the top lane, Eimy in the jungle, Yuuki in the mid lane with Imp and PYL bringing up the bottom.
And maybe FPX are the favorite, Stomp, but we'd still call LGD that sleeping dragon, the side that is still a dragon if nothing else. They have the potential to beat some of the best in the league if they show up on the day. They very rarely show up on the day lately, but we know the potential that this side has, and you're just waiting for that moment. We're always waiting for that moment. If you're an LGD fan, you know what it feels like. One day they'll show up and they will beat the best team in the league. You're like, where has this LGD been all my life? And and then they lose the next game in 20 minutes. Like, God damn it.
So sometimes it's just there for them. It just clicks and it happens to work. But the Sleeping Dragon, maybe it's not awake today. We don't know if there's smoke rising from the mountain or if that's just the clouds behind it. But we're certainly going to find out, because FPX are a team that LGD has to look forward to take wins. Because as we said, after today and tomorrow, we will be halfway through the LPL spring split. And if they start that second half with a negative win-loss record, that's going to make getting into playoffs much more difficult.
Yeah, especially being in the cross-conference, of course, the fact that every point is valuable and will last permanently. It's 3 points time right now in the LPL. If they want to get those victories, now is the perfect time to do exactly that.
We'll have to see if that's the case. Our casters, though, are ready to get us into Game 1.
Cheers, Dom. I'm here with Clement to get us into this game with FPX and LGD. How are you doing today, Clement?
I'm doing fine. Just woke up late and headed over here.
Wonderful. Yeah, pretty much the same for me as well. So to get into this matchup, FPX right here, very much a wildcard team. You kind of... It's difficult to know what you're going to get from them purely because Pepper is so aggressive, right? Like, a Pepper will go into the jungle and it's like, well, if that initial trade goes well, then maybe we just snowball the early game and then we just win the game. Or if it goes badly, then it all just kind of ends at 5 minutes into the game.
Yeah, this has been their kind of coin flip situation where they do have these really bad games. I remember the one that Pepper went for a middle gank at level 2 and then just died to it, which basically dragged FPX down. But if you look at holistically what they've been able to do in the early game, they do have an edge here against LGD. Their KDA at 15 minutes is significantly higher. They do play a much cleaner early game. And when you talk about the late game, they also have LWX on that hyper carry. If he manages not to, not to walk into enemy traps and things of the sort, they do have a double header kind of an advantage against LGD right here, and I do feel like it's up to LGD to kind of break the flow of the FPX team.
Yeah, and it's really sometimes difficult to know what you're going to get from LGD as well, because sometimes they just look like an incredibly cohesive team, and it looks like a team who could take down pretty much anyone, and then other days it starts to lack, you know, and we just saw LGD yesterday take on Vici. Vici managed to find the win, but that was also a very different team. It's almost, if you hit the nameplates, I'd be like, that is not Vici Gaming. That is not Vici Gaming. That turned up to the LGD arena right there. But we are getting into Champions X for FPX and LGD. In this one, it will be Zoe, Tamkench, and Ryze bound out against LGD, and it will be a Jarvan, Camille, and Rakan towards FPX.
A lot of respect coming out for Yuuki. Now, Yuuki has recently been discovered on the Korean ladder, and people were very surprised to see that he's sitting at 900 challenger points. So, a lot of respect coming out for this new mid laner, and the mid laner that LGD have settled on so far.
Now, first pick is going to be the Azir coming in here, and a Sion on the opposite side, and also going to be an early rotation of the Caitlyn.
So basically, LGD is picking up a page from Vici Gaming, going with the exact composition that they faced yesterday. I really like this comp because if you have these two champions, it's very, very difficult to have a bad 5v5 composition. You have the great front line, and you also have the late game insurance of Caitlyn.
Well, if you can't beat them, join them. So on the opposite side, it will be an FPX picking up the Kalista, and also the Alistar. On the opposite side, it will be a Taliyah as well. Also a takeaway from Bing, as Bing has almost exclusively been playing Taliyah when he hasn't managed to get that one. But you just have the Azir in this one.
Big questions coming out for Bing's champion pool. So far, his two most played champions have been banned away, the Ryze and the Taliyah. He really has been this kind of a roaming mid laner to help out his other lanes. What is he gonna pick now?
Probably Azir. I would have to
assume. Oh, yeah.
I corrected myself at the end of when I was talking as well, but Fiora is going to be banned there against specifically Gimgoon, and then Braum as well towards PYL, and on top of that, another Vladimir. So almost double bans coming in here from LGD towards Gimgoon.
A lot of respect there coming out again. So far, we have seen some counters to the Sion being played in LCK. The Trundle really comes up as one of them. We saw SKT play this matchup, but in the LPL, so far, there really hasn't been a good answer to the Sion pick.
And not just yet, Skarner going to be banned here against Eimy. Skarner becoming more and more prevalent in the LPL, around a 50% win rate right now. And then LGD, back over to them. They do need a support and a jungler as well for LGD.
It's quite interesting because the Sejuani pick has been left up. Sejuani is the pick that both of these junglers go to when the Jarvan is out. We're seeing a consideration for Zach here. A lot of initiation coming out from LGD, and this also is a very strong pick into something like the Kalista, who has relatively short range.
Yeah, try and lock that pick down. Bring him back into the team. FPX, back over to them. You need a top laner here. It's going to have to both be on the same rotation. I would not be surprised if it is a gangplank in the end for Gimgoon playing into this Sion here. I would love it if he picks Kled. I'm sure you would too, Clement.
I would, but I would be very hesitant to call it a very good matchup into Sion. Sion's one of those champions that when you go in, he has enough CC to kind of kite away from you. And as a Kled, you have a very short window of opportunity to get all of your damage off. Once that violent tendency falls off, you really can't do much to the Sion. So he's going to have to play this extremely well or find other avenues in the team fights to really make this pick work.
Yeah, because it has been locked in so far. Kled has yet to find a win in the LPL this split with 2 games played. Sejuani will be the final pickup for Pepper coming in here. So guess the Sejuani usually does like to go towards something with a bit of damage, but will be able to control some of that early game.
The Taric here would be a very good pickup. It's not one that PYL usually likes to pick into, but it's a very hard counter to Kalista in terms of team fights. Kalista, she needs to stack up and get that rend off, and with your Taric ultimate, a lot of times she can't get her damage off. So that's more of a team fight consideration pick right there. And for FPX, I don't really like where this composition is going for them. What they're basically saying is that they're going to put most of their damage onto Bing, who traditionally really hasn't been their main focus and carry of the team. So this is kind of a new look for them.
Yeah, for sure, because last time we were saying that we wanted to see Pepper play towards top side. Can they get that lane rolling? Bing was usually the roam champion, on a roam champion who's able to get to those side lanes, try and set them up, and then bottom lane, LW actually looking for that late game insurance from him, but has gone for Kalista here. So early, mid game, skirmish focus, damage coming out of Bing, Gimgoon for the initiate, and it also almost seems a little disconnected. It's like everyone wants to go in, but Azir also wants to stay back at the same time.
Yeah, it's definitely not a very coherent composition. They're basically stocking up on win conditions and hoping one of them will pull through. And I guess it's kind of okay against a team like LGD, because LGD kind of plays the same style as well. They don't really have a very coherent composition that they like to run. It's more about just, hey, can we win the lane and then leave the lane for roaming? That's kind of their mentality in the game. So you see the Taliyah pick and the Sion pick to really move their parts into the fights early on.
Yeah, LGD here. With that Zac, we'll be able to try and lock down, picks like Camille, try and lock down FPX. But of course, a big focus will be looking towards the jungle in the early game, because it doesn't really matter what the pick is coming out from Pepper. He's going to be looking for that early invade. He'll go for his initial clear, and then we'll try to start pressuring the jungle. The question really is just, where is he going to put that pressure afterwards? Does he move mid? Does he move top? Because previously, we haven't really seen him put any pressure into the top side.
Yeah, I would imagine this is another composition where he focuses heavily on the bot lane once more. Kled, even though he does have a lot of kill pressure in the top lane, he doesn't really have it against Sion necessarily.
Right.
So I do expect this is a kind of composition where they try to snowball the Kalista and have LWX have a good game in the middle.
Yeah, we do have a small pause here as the players enter the game, so it's going to be on us for just a little bit longer before we manage to get into game 1 here between LGD and FPX. Gives the players a little bit of time as well to well, keep their thoughts to themselves, because they can't talk to each other, but they can actually think about what they want to do in terms of their laning and their matchups here.
Pepper's previous name was known as Regret, so this kind of seems like what he's doing right now. But jokes aside, FPX are having a pretty good time so far. It's their first win streak of the season. They just picked up wins against Jingdong and Top Gaming. A bit of a scuffle against Jingdong, but they did come out ahead after capitalizing on a lot of Jingdong mistakes. And I can see why they're feeling quite happy coming into LGD. They do have a chance to make it 3 in a row.
Yeah, for sure. It just said that Gimgoon was the one who initiated the pause right there, if you want more information on that one. But I totally agree. We looked at FPX coming into cross-conference and was like, actually, this is their chance to pick up multiple wins, right? You look towards their own group and it did not particularly go well. Even against a lot of these teams, you could say were slumping, like EDG, OMG, WE towards the start of the split. Didn't look like their former selves. And you're like, well, FPX, if you can't pick up wins here, then when's it going to happen? If they were placed in the other group, though, would they have found success? And as you said, so far have found success against a bunch of teams over there. So if they can do it against JD Gaming, then you would assume that they can also pick up wins against LGD.
They are the heavy favorites in this matchup. Like we talked about before, they do have the cleaner early game, and they also have the late game insurance in LWX. Not necessarily in this draft, though. They are kind of feeding into the madness that LGD represents. LGD on the other side, very interestingly enough, picking up almost the same composition that we saw Vici pick up yesterday. So really taking a page out of someone else's playbook. And I really do like this composition a bit more than what they traditionally did run. Caitlyn is one of those picks that they haven't really touched on much, but it does give them a more coherent identity in the team fights.
It does for sure. I just want to see what they do with it in the early game. Is Caitlyn going to look for that fast push, try and knock down the tower and start rotating from lane to lane? Kind of what we saw from Sion Gaming the other day. We'll have to see as we get onto the rift here between FPX and LGD. Second game back-to-back for LGD in the arena.
Ooh, a lot of crowd chanting right there for their hometown heroes in LGD. Even though their past 2 years of performance haven't really lived up to the fan expectations, people in Hangzhou still love their city team.
Probably this is the most wins we've seen from LGD in quite some time, actually, as they get towards the middle of the table. Like, yes, LGD are still kind of on the cusp of, like, trying to make it into a playoffs run right now, but for now, like, they are actually starting to pick up wins, which is more than LGD have done in previous splits.
They did have a very good 3-match win streak against RNG and Rogue Warriors at the same time. So there was a lot of hype coming from LGD after the Chinese New Year that maybe they would show up and really evolve into this team that could run other teams over in the mid phase of the game. But they have kind of slowed down, not really lived up to the expectations. Let's see if they can continue the hype today.
Yeah, it definitely has turned into a bit of an arms race in the Eastern Conference, because you look towards RNG, they've started to look better. Rogue Warriors have looked absolutely insane recently. So LGD really have to try and play catch-up there. We can take a look at some of the runes, however. Jinoo has gone for Comet, as per usual, on the Sion. And in top lane, it's also going to be Electrocute on Gimgoon right here on the Kled.
That rune setup is a very aggressive rune setup. It's basically signaling that he's going to try to one combo all in and kill that Sion. So what this does tell me is that they are looking for possible opportunities with Pepper to go into that top lane and get a gank off there, because otherwise there's not much reason to really go into Electrocute. The Kleds we've seen so far in Professional have either taken Grasp of the Undying or been more of the airy type, so that's kind of a interesting build-wise from Gimgoon.
Yeah, for sure. It's usually chip damage versus, you know, scaling towards the late game, or it's like Electrocute, I'm going to kill this guy, but that requires Pepper to go top lane, something we haven't really seen from FPX so far. And also Eimy, will see if he actually passed towards top side, because in fact that is what he's doing right now, has gone towards blue and into his red, as we're actually seeing Pepper path towards the bottom here after taking his red.
So maybe not the gank on the first rotation round of buffs, but that thing is definitely going to come. That's why you take the Electrocute in the top lane matchup for Kled. Really not a lot of Electrocutes overall for laners. It has been mostly a jungler's rune, and if you're going to bring that, it's really the burst damage and the kill like we saw with Echo yesterday.
Yeah, we just saw bot lane Crisp trying to roam up there, look for a gank on top of Yuuki, but because of the wave position, also the fact that Alistar had been missing for quite some time, LGD have very much communicated that to Yuuki, that there could be a gank coming in from the bottom side, plus Sejuani was there. We actually see Eimy looking for the counter jungle here, taking away the Grump. Likewise, same thing happening on the opposite side for Pepper.
That Crisp roam right there was pretty nice because their bot lane did not have to leash, so he really leveraged the pushing advantage he had in lane and also facilitated Pepper to go into the enemy jungle and pick up a couple more camps. Yeah, camps and wards as well, as you can see around the blue buff there. And bot lane slowly being chipped away from. Kalista has the push. Pepper also waiting in mid lane once more, looking for a gank, but Yuuki smartly playing towards the top side of the lane where his jungler is. Yeah, it should be very obvious for Yuuki where Pepper is on the map right now. We've seen Eimy just go into the enemy top side of the jungle as well, getting that counter information in and knowing that if Pepper is going to gank, it's going to be from the bottom side of the map. Yeah, and Eimy just continuing his jungle clear right here. Pepper actually retreating into his own jungle, taking Krugs, so jungler's pretty much they're doing the same things in the jungle. Holy moly, that was very difficult to say.
I like to call this sandwiching because
sandwiching?
it's the way you cut a sandwich. You cut it by diagonals. So you have those two triangles, two quadrants for each side.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah, I thought you meant like the junglers with the bread, and then like the jungle is the filling.
Okay.
Because top side of the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, I could see how that could be rather confusing.
Yeah. But now that you explained it, I totally get it. Taking a look at that bot side again, Kalista actually has a pretty significant advantage, has a wave advantage pushing into Imp, and Caitlyn's not getting the push off here.
Yeah, it really does come down to because they had to start for their jungler, so they really gave the push over to FPX. And in this matchup, I think it's pretty much fine. Really, Imp isn't going to have control of the lane until he gets the static shiv anyway.
Yeah, I can just see the rune setup there. PYL taking Glacial Augment on Taric here. Looking to chase down, lock down his targets. And Crisp just trying to maintain control of this bush as well, just shoving PY out. He's already put down a ward as well.
Yeah, Taric's still not much of a strong laner. Oh, here is the one combo coming in, but really not doing as much as Gimgoon would hope.
Yeah, I wanted a bit more damage, and as you said, it really is based around his violent tendencies, which is not something you can necessarily control. It's very much on a timer, so if your opponent knows how to play against Kled, they can time how they want to move towards the minions based on your violent tendencies.
Yeah, as a Kled main, the thing that... Oh, the trick that Kled really likes to do is to go in without his violent tendencies. But let's just gank
look
first.
For a gank into the mid lane. It's going to be a flash away from Yuuki, but Eimy just wants to try and lock down target. He looks for the flash as well. Tries to slap Pepper towards Bing right here, and Pepper deciding to try and double back towards Bing. Will take a bit more damage, but gets to slow down. Smite off as well to get a little bit more help. But that's a great point-blank elastic slingshot in from Eimy. Almost finds the kill, so it will be a flash from both the mid laner and the jungle from both teams.
Yeah, FPX really tried to initiate that, but LGD called them out on the gank, and so far both sides not really having a decided advantage off of that.
Ooh.
Trading flashes in the mid lane.
Chris looks for the combo in the bottom lane, swiftly jumped away from by Imp, but having to burn his flash right there. Another gank into the mid lane, and
doesn't manage to get the Q2 off. Bing just walks away.
Doesn't happen, so yeah, Eimy will retreat back to the bottom side, but continue pressuring the mid lane. Yuuki pushing up is able to do so, knowing that the jungler is around, and Eimy looking for yet another gank. I mean, he knows that he's on a control ward right now, so Bing has no way of seeing this, but the wave is now pushed in, so just giving cover to allow Yuuki to look for his own back.
Yeah, this is when Taliyah can really take control of the map. If you look at the itemization, she starts with the Lost Chapter against no mana items coming out from the Azir, so she can really have that pushing advantage and try to control the river, as you see Eimy doing right now.
And just before we jumped into that mid lane fight, you were saying that Kleds usually like to jump in without the violent tendencies. Do you mean like just as it's coming off cooldown? As we have another fight in the bottom lane, PYL getting locked up. He does have the flash and will have to use it. But Eimy right here, they are looking for it. LGBS jumping over the wall, dodges the elastic slingshot, chasing down to PYL. Ren comes through, and that will be the kill. Pepper also getting involved, plus the teleport in from the top lane. Kled comes in, and he has the ultimate ready and available for him. Bing comes in as well into this bottom lane play. Will be able to kill Eimy or knock him down into his passive. It wasn't Gimgoon, it was actually Bing with the teleport. So he's going to turn up, and it's just a matter of wiping out the blobs for the kill.
Yeah, and I have to say LWX really outplayed Eimy right there. If Eimy was able to use his E and just try to stop the Kalista as she came in, that kill would not have happened. But LWX willing to flash over the wall and pursue the kill.
Yeah, there will be 2 kills in the bottom lane for FPX, getting that early game advantage. And that was pretty much just all the players coming together. PYL getting caught here and taking a long time to flash.
The famous PYL face check. We see that again. Eimy jumping over the wall, but so does LWX. Gets enough cooldown on his second Ren and just secures the first blood.
Yeah, really nice. Had the control ward over the wall, so saw it coming from a mile away, was able to flash out of that one, and Bing comes in. Swoop-de-doop into the bottom lane, doesn't even bother trying to deal with the Caitlyn, and they just need to kill the blobs. Yeah,
it's actually a bit of a waste of the teleport. He did get something out of it, but that kill could have gone towards the bot lane. He didn't need to be there for the kill. So, you know, just nitpicking, but he could have walked to lane.
Okay, third time's the charm. Explain to me Kled trading tactics.
Okay, so the Kled trading tactics is you go in without your violent tendencies, you lose your Scarl, and when you are without a mount, you get that move speed, and then you get your violent tendencies back, then you mount your Scarl back on. That's the actual trade pattern for Kled. A lot of people don't really know this, and they will underestimate you. They're like, why is this Kled coming in on me without his W on? And then you jump off Scarl, and you're like, I've been planning this all along. That's how you get your solo kills in the top lane.
Another gang into the bot lane. Imp steps forwards. He has no summoners. There's nothing he can do. PYL comes out here. He's got Eimy coming into the play, but they simply have no damage. It's a matter of just trying to get out of here because they have in for the mid lane. It's Yuuki coming in, and they have the Sion coming in from the top lane. They're being trapped in by the Taliyah wall, but this is such a prolonged trade because of damage dealers on here yet. Chris gets pulled in by the Fate's Call, and they get tossed out.
So what happened there was Yuki's wall actually stopped Jinoo's ultimate. So he stopped midway in the river. Oh, that was
really?
Yeah, that was rather unfortunate. Because I was watching Jinoo and was like, okay, he has his ult up, you know, and the unstoppable onslaught. He's coming down, and then he hits his teammate's wall, and that just ends there.
Man, it could have been so sick if he was able to drift off the wall as he coming into the bot lane, but instead he just kind of face planted into it.
Oh, that was rather unfortunate, but still FPX would have gotten the first kill anyway and most likely would have been able to back off with the Fate's Call. LGD, you know, they had the same idea. They wanted to snowball the bot lane, but FPX just a little bit faster, and they did have the advantage from the previous fight.
Crisp getting another nice knockup onto PYL again without summoners, lands the dazzle and is able to stop LWX. It's a lot of damage in return from him. Last will actually find the kill, lines up the traps, and Chris has to flash over them.
So LWX, without any of his summoners, going up against a heal from Imp right there, kind of pushing too far.
Wow, meanwhile in the mid lane, ultimate coming in from Bing, and Pepper's able to lock down Yuuki. In comes the Conquering Sands, and just needs one more auto attack provided by Pepper. Another kill to FPX.
This is just non-stop action. We don't even have any time to really go over what happened in the previous fight, but so far, like, FPX just coming out slightly ahead overall. The fight there from LWX was really kind of unnecessary, so uncoordination from Chris and LWX right there. They didn't need to push it. The other team had the summoner advantage, and they still went in. It wasn't even really close, because if LWX stepped on another more trap, then that would have been a very easy kill for Imp.
He was also taking like 1 billion minion damage as well, so was not particularly helpful in the bottom lane, and will drop the kill right there. But this is really just an FPX game, right, where they kind of draw their opponents into the madness that is the early game from FPX, the constant aggression, the constant trades. And you just kind of get drawn into it, you know, you fight back, you look for your own plays, and then over time, FPX starts to find these wins. That's exactly what happened in the JD Gaming series, where it was just like, JD, why don't you just play the map? You're good at this. You can just, like, play around them. But no, we've got to fight them. They've challenged us to a duel, and now we're going in.
Yeah, so FPX definitely crazy to a fault. It does work for them when they're behind sometimes, like in the Jingdong series, where they were down 10,000 gold, and they managed to claw their way back. But a lot of our, like Rusty was saying on the desk as well, a lot of the problems from FPX is they're too aggressive sometimes when they have scaling compositions.
But just gank after gank. If it doesn't start working, then why not just keep ganking the bottom lane? There's the PY ultimate coming in down though, but a perfect follow-up. Lockdown out from Pepper, but once again the gank in from Sion. This time there's no Taliyah wall to block him. And in with the elastic slingshot, locks down Chris, but Fate's Call. He was the only one left behind, and you can always rescue the cow.
And Jinoo trying to teleport here.
Oh, interrupted, and top lane tower will be falling here. This is going to be solo gold out for Gimgoon.
So far we're seeing that LGD, they did have a game plan. They wanted the Sion and the Taliyah into their own lane, but FPX has always been able to outplay.
Oh, I thought he was going to kill him. Is anyone coming in from the bottom lane? It looks like Amy's here to protect Bing. Doesn't have the cooldown. Flash comes out. Another flash in return from Yuuki.
Able to get out by the skin of his teeth right there. A lot of the roaming components not working for LGD. FPX able to pull the trigger faster every time in the bot lane and really neutralizing LGD's composition as a whole.
Now, right now, Bing is harassing Eimy on his wolf camp. So Gimgoon's able to transition into the mid lane here, top tower being down. The mid lane had to go back because Yuuki was pushed out, and on the mid lane, getting pressured.
Gimgoon is basically winning this lane 1v0. So 2 roams from Jinoo, they're not doing anything, and a really lazy teleport positioning from him in that bottom side brush. FPX did have a ward right there, so Pepper instantly stopped the teleport coming from Jinoo, and they lose a tower for essentially nothing.
You know, when we were looking at these compositions, we were looking at FPX, it's like, oh, I don't really see what happens here. You know, Kled goes in, and then Bing's the damage, and then LWX is on Kalista right here. But what we discounted was that it's FPX. So most of what they're going to be doing is going to be around the early game, trying to pick up kills and just have such a big advantage that you just end the game.
Yeah, and a lot of it does come down to Pepper Sejuani. This is the champion that he's been picking up after people start to realize, hey, we can't give him Jarvan. We're just going to take away the Jarvan. This has been his second go-to, and we can really see why. It's so easy to do lane ganks with Sejuani. You start from a very far range, and you pretty much have 2 stuns onto your entire kit. And the way FPX played it was brilliant. They held on to the Fake's Call. They said they didn't need this extra CC, and they were able to kill just with Sejuani's skills.
But honestly, he's ganked the bottom lane like 4 times probably, and just over and over and over again. But it just keeps working, you know. LGD try to react to the play, but as you said, play it really well with the Fate's Call, and they never really get anything back. And PYL and Imp, they always step up and just kind of let themselves get ganked.
And this really is misplay from LGD. I don't think they're reading their compositions correctly. Let's watch this first, though.
Crisp getting the gank into the mid lane, and LWX actually comes up, and I would say kill secures that one.
Pretty easy, and they also have the bot lane coming up, so no room for Yuuki to go anywhere.
Good shifting sands out from Bing, able to dodge out of Eimy. But it's constant chip damage onto the mid lane tower. Top's already dead. Bot lane was being pushed in as well. PYL caught in rotation out from Pepper. He doesn't have damage behind him, but he is able to at least chunk him out.
And so they tried to move their bot lane to defend the mid tower. Did not manage a defense, and they don't have any vision to go back to bot lane. So they just lose the bot tower as well. That was actually just terrible macro play from LGD.
And it's not looking good. Losing mid tower, losing bottom tower as well. Next Dragon's not going to be up for a long time, but they have complete control over the bottom side of the map. That bottom jungle is lit up like a Christmas tree. You can see absolutely everything that's going on right there.
Yeah, and this really goes to how LGD's misplaying the map. They do have their roam potential from Taliyah, like we were talking about. You go Lost Chapter into someone who doesn't have that mana regen early on. You should be able to control the mid-game, especially the river side. But what LGD has done is that they've face-checked when they could have had other members come in and check, and they've just got picked off like the PYL death, in the river right there, and it really has led to a loss of control where they should have had control, which is kind of a weird thing to say.
And right now, there's only really one objective on the map that's easy to go towards, and that will be the Herald right here. Ward over the wall from Eimy. Pretty much already knew this was happening, to be honest. Multiple members off the map, and where else would they be? So looks for the smite right here. Walks up, but it's going to be smited out from Pepper. You stay in here, trying to get over the wall. Has to flash, and Crisp, he wants to knock him back into the pit, but he's got the lockdown. In comes Gimgoon as well, knocked into the passive. I don't think anyone really wants to teleport on these bloblets.
Nope. Certainly not. They're just going to hand the kill over to Bing, and this is what we're talking about at the start of the game. If you look at FPX, yes, they have LWX as their late game insurance, but they also play a much better early game than LGD right here. LGD, they just need to kind of slow the tempo down a little bit and realize their win conditions. They're fighting way too much.
Wow, Herald actually just jumps over Taliyah Wolf. That is, I've never seen the interaction before, and I wanted to see what would happen. So, turns out completely ineffectual.
Yuuki, not having fun with these walls, realizes that apparently Herald can just run over them, but his top laner can't.
I feel like at least it should be like an on interaction where you charge into the wall and it breaks the wall, but instead just runs over it. Just a little bit of a hop and see you later. So mid lane tower, inner mid tower now cracked for FPX. So it's almost just like they didn't hit a road bump whatsoever, because usually it's just like you get to the next line of towers. Is that going to be a problem? Can they crack them? But they've already just opened up mid lane tower.
So much of it has been handed to FPX. They've really capitalized off a lot of mistakes. Jinoo not accomplishing anything with his 2 roams into the bot lane, and also just PYL roaming into the river where they already had the scuttle, but no one around him, and he gets picked off instantly. FPX able to read where LGD are going to go next and punish them accordingly.
Yeah. Definitely didn't help that, you know, Eimy suicided there into the pit and then also opened up mid lane, but got blue buff now being attempted here by Pepper. See the goal totals, just advantages across the board. There is no one who is behind right now from FPX. Even the support has 1,000 extra gold over PYL.
Yeah, LGD not really able to find the first move, even though they should have had a pushing mid lane and a pushing bot lane to boot. They also had the Sion and the Zac, who are very good long-range initiators, but FPX always faster on the trigger and happy to just sit back and punish LGD's mistakes wherever they represent themselves.
Yeah, pretty much. Just looking towards LGD's jungle now, they have managed to clear out the bottom side of the map, but it's actually top where everyone from FPX is gearing towards. Baron's going to be spawning in a minute right now as well, and that wave is being pushed in courtesy of LWX. So really just playing around the top side here, FPX, and also setting up these brushes. There is no reason for PYL to be in there. Has to flash over the wall. He's going to die to a rend.
That's unfortunate, but also I don't understand why you would simply walk into that side. He didn't even use his sweeper, so he was just walking in blind. That's I don't know, that's inexcusable because it's just too easy for FPX.
One does not simply walk into a top lane controlled by FPX.
Yes, you just saw them pushing the top wave. There's nowhere they could be at the moment. You should at least pop your sweeper.
This is a huge problem. It's just mistake after mistake and capitalization after capitalization coming in from FPX. Crisp is able to zone pretty much by himself. He's essentially tanking 3 members of LGD while the rest of his team can hit the tower right here. Initiate coming in from Eimy, though. He's completely separated from his team. In comes Jinoo right here, but Amy's already dead. I didn't even see his life bar. Triple knockup coming in from Chris. Another triple knockup coming out from FPX. And everybody is just dying left, right, and center. This isn't even a fight. Quadra kill in for Bing.
And this is the LGD that we saw at the start of the split. Basically, you know, lots of mistakes, not a lot of fight, not a lot of coordination coming out from the team, and it's something that we really don't want to see them regress back to.
Jinoo, the only one alive, so he'll just address the bottom lane, do what he can, but the Baron is dead, and Gimgoon has the luxury of pushing top tower. There's no one to stop him. And he'll be able to knock this one over as well with the minion wave coming in, so 300 gold and global gold over to him, and we get to see what I hesitate to call a fight one more time.
Yeah, Eimy going in, but none of the rest of the members on his team seems to be willing to go in with him, and he falls down before he can even complete his ultimate. 2.5 seconds from Taric right here, not enough to save LGD. They needed 8 or 9 right there. Cosmic Radiance just doesn't cut it.
Yeah, Fate's Call into Pulverize was what it was in the end. The double knockup, and it was completely mitigates the entirety of Taric's ultimate right there. LGD just... they can't even fight back at this point in the game, and you know, FPX are just able to take objective after objective, and you're right, like some of this is actually just being given over by LGD. It's like, now's the time to fight, they jump in, they lose the fight, and then it's an easy way into the barrier, you know, it's not even a contest at that point, so FPX are gonna be able to just pick everything up.
LGD look like a very indecisive team. They, I don't think they understand the concept of sunken fallacy, so they just saw Eimy die and all of the members still stand around. It's just such weird play coming from LGD. It's listless, it's uncoordinated. It doesn't seem like there's someone really in command of the squad.
Yeah, unable to really pull something back in this game. You know, props to them for at least trying to find a fight instead of just, you know, slowly losing ground, but really that has just accelerated the game. We're 21 minutes in now, and we're pretty much at the cusp of victory here for FPX. With a 12,000 gold lead, as they will look to knock down this bottom tower. We'll be turning into a 13,000 gold lead very shortly. Eimy looking for initiate once again, but great knockup coming in from Chris. And he hasn't even got to do anything yet. He goes into his passive, and Jinoo doesn't really feel it right now, so Bloblet's once again going to fall, and down goes Eimy.
And if you want to do this type of play, you could have a much better execution method, and that is have the Taric Bastion onto the Zac before he goes in, so he has at least that invulnerability to get that initiation off if that's what you're going for. But this really looks like Eimy trying to pull the team back, and the rest of LGD saying, hey, we still have game 2.
Yeah. Really does seem like what it is right now, because Baron Minion's coming in, and the ultimate has been activated by Gimgoon. In goes everyone from FPX. Down comes the ultimate in from PYL, but is only going to protect himself for another 2 seconds before he goes down, and Pepper able to zone away. Eldrax taking a bunch of damage out from Yuuki, but he's going to fall himself. Tower's dead, and him looking to step up to try and do some damage. Flash coming in from Chris. Doesn't quite find the Pulverize right there, and in comes Initiate once again from Gimgoon. Eimy looking towards him, but is unable to defend. Im pushed towards the tower and knocked down. 3 kills over to FPX, and a minion wave coming in. It looks like it's game.
Yeah, nothing really to hold off FPX members
Whoa,
right here.
oh,
but Jinoo
those
does
are
get
some
the
Sion
snipe with the
mechanics.
Soul Furnace.
The old Flash Soul Furnace, and now I think Gimgoon's probably going to die here as well, unless he can get Skull back. We'll have to see. Well,
yeah,
okay, looks like he's got Skull back, so I'll see you later.
Good play there coming out from Gimgoon.
Oh, nice sidestep.
Sidestepping.
Well, this is going to be quite a long chase. He's going to have to try and get Skull back once again, though he is against essentially 3 tanks, so this will take some time.
Yeah, he's down.
We got him.
We got him.
Yuuki was able to catch up and deal a bit of damage there. So he was able to survive for a long time, but unfortunately will go down for the next 40 seconds. So LGD have a little bit of breathing room, but their base is essentially in shambles.
Yeah, no successful defense coming out from LGD. No coordination. No 5-man going in and try to ward off the advantage from FPX. It really has been Eimy just flying in and everybody standing around and watching him die. So very weird coordination coming from LGD. If they want to do a cohesive counterattack, they can. They do have the Sion. They do have Yuuki who can cut into the backline, but they're not doing any of it. They're basically just standing around and telling Eimy to go in by himself, which is really, really weird from LGD coming out here.
Yeah, really big disconnect, and especially when you're so far behind as the initiator right here, you jump in and just almost instantly die. You know, Eimy doesn't even find the knockup right there, gets knocked out of the air with his elastic slingshot, since it is so scripted. and FPX are just able to win these fights so handily right here. We are really just looking towards the second game in this best of 3 because it is a matter of time, essentially, when you have a gold lead this big, almost a 14,000 gold lead at 24 minutes.
This is the type of disappointment LGD has kind of brought to their fans. We can accept mistakes and errors, things of that nature, but we really can't accept when a team kind of stands back and takes whatever the enemy team throws at them. We've seen this LGD in previous splits and at the start of the season, but they really have to pull their stuff together and get a cohesive fight.
Looking for another initiate once more, splitting up the fight, being over the wall, but he's still able to provide damage. PYL has deals on top of him, has a little bit of defense, and Jinoo's able to guard the front lines. Incoming Gimgoon into the back and gets the knockup and the kill down onto Yuuki. Him trying to kite away, but that's not going to happen. 2 more kills over to the Azir, make it 3. 4 kills in total to FPX, and they're just looking for the win.
The FPX just very far ahead right there. LGD throwing a last hurrah, trying to get everyone into the fight, trying to make something happen. It's what I want to see, but unfortunately just too far behind.
Too little, too late out from LGD, and Jinoo just playing Fountain Guard right now. That's going to be the game. Game 1 over to FPX, complete domination.
And I'm so happy because Kled finally won a game in the LPL.
That's true. Now
even
1
though
and 2.
He was against nobody in lane, but
True. Also
that still
true.
counts as a win.
We take those.
The main problem here for LGD is they weren't able to take the initiation, take the first step in the bottom lane. They did have a mid lane that could roam there. They had long-range initiation, but FPX catching PYL off multiple times and really controlling the tempo in a place where LGD should have had the advantage.
Yeah, and well, the way I like to describe it is like when there's a throw, it takes a good team to have their hands up so you can catch the throw, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like LGD were throwing the ball at their hands, you know what I mean? As in, like, they just had the hands down by their side and they just aimed for the hands every single time, you know? PYL walking into the bushes, constantly overextending, Eimy looking for these disconnected fights. Don't know if that's like an Eimy call or whether that's the team saying, go in Eimy, this is our time to shine, and then he jumps in and everyone just watches him go in and die.
I'm really interested on the communication on LGD.
Yeah.
I wonder who the main caller is. They do have 2 Korean players in Imp and Jinoo, but you know the rest of the team, even though they might be a little less veteran, they should be able to formulate cohesive commands to the rest of the teammates. Like, we didn't see any of that in LGD, and they had a good composition. They had a clear path, had executed, you know, push in the bot lane, push in the mid, and we can group up, do what we like to do. Play a more against less numbers fight and try to punish teams like that, but he never got it off.
Well, it's kind of like the OMG problem, right? It's like you can have a composition, but if you lose the laning phase and you can never get to use the composition, that doesn't really matter, does it? You need to get out of step 1, which is essentially get out of laning phase. Even if you don't win the laning phase, you can go even, at least try and get out of it, and then you can start executing. But that's not what happened. It was complete collapse. It was like 5-1 in kills by like 7-8 minutes.
And I also feel like in this match, Jinoo will probably move back into another bruiser composition. He's like, so I tried to teleport bottom twice. None of it worked, and I gave up my tower. Oh, I know. I should go back on the Fiora.
Yep, maybe change it up and actually just see 2 carries in the top lane. That would be pretty fun to see. Well, that's it for game 1. We are going to send it over to the analyst desk to take a look.
You know, we were joking before the game that the match would be decided in the first 5 minutes of the laning phase, and we were wrong. It wasn't 5 minutes. It was 6 minutes. Because immediately FPX just show up bottom, they find PYL warding, and they pick themselves up a handful of kills, and the whole match just seemed to stumble out of control for LGD.
I wish I was joking when I said it, Dom. I wasn't joking at all. It's and again, that's the style matchup between the teams. Of course, FPX are going to be aggressive. They're a lane-centric team. They will go for aggressive picks or plays in that stage of the game. LGD aren't a side to roll over and just let the early game go. They're not just going to sit there and scale. They tend to take the fights. Eimy's trying to be cerebral and find people. They might get skirmishes, but ultimately when the fights happen, the fights are just going to be extreme. The early game is always going to be the big place where we see these start, and this is the first example past the early game where the continuation of fights will happen. Yuuki comes in. Now the important part here, as Clement mentioned, is that Jinoo was ulting actually, and then he ulted into the wall of Yuuki.
Yeah.
Taliyah actually hurts his own teammate a little bit there, and that was the one moment in the whole game where LGD had a chance to come back and win a team fight with a numbers advantage.
5 versus 3.
But it didn't happen at all because they missed the execution so hard. And if we look before that, Dom, it was significantly worse during that phase, just in smaller amounts. but a small mistake in an early game is still significant for what it means for the rest of the game.
Especially against the likes of a team like FPX, who uses those small mistakes so effectively. Again, we come back to the style of this team where they force you to make mistakes and capitalize in such huge ways on it. That being said, it was clear what LGD wanted to do. They had the Caitlyn to scale. They had plenty of engage with the likes of that Zac and Sion, and then Taliyah for some map mobility. It seemed as though they wanted to stack up on the bottom half of the map, but like you said, the execution just wasn't there.
Yeah, LGD's draft actually does work okay together. We were watching the first part of the draft phase, and you said that maybe a Taric support would be banned. But my response to that is Taric is okay in this situation, but not for the 2v2, not for the bottom lane. Taric with a Caitlyn, you're not really going to hit the stun unless you're going onto the Alistar. Caitlyn's too far a range away of a champion, and Kalista hops sideways constantly. So no one's getting stunned unless FPX are going onto you. So I said don't pick Taric, but you can pick the Taric for its combination with the Zac, or its combination with the Sion for the tanks that go forwards. So if you're picking it for the team composition for team fighting, then absolutely go for the Taric, go for gold, have a good time with it. But get through laning phase not dying, and they died in laning phase.
That's just it, right?
Well, it's just God, Dom. It's just God.
You got to look at how PYL plays the laning phase. He plays the Alistar, he plays the Braum, he plays the Tahm Kench, something big that could protect Imp while still having a large impact in these team fights. Taric was the last champion that could sort of fit that MO, but as you said, he's just not very mobile. And once FPX were able to find him out of position one time, that's all it took, that bottom lane was just unstoppable. I mean, LWX playing Kalista, really pushing the boundaries of that champion and trying to get Imp to back out of his lane time and time again. That being said, though, we do have to commend FPX for playing so cleanly. It wasn't just LGD making mistakes. FPX used their aggression to such huge extent. I mean, that Wombo at the red buff was massive.
Yeah, the 20-minute fight that they had, FPX, looked very clean. It was a quadra kill in the end for the mid laner as well. And ultimately, that particular team fight was even through a Taric ultimate. You get to see it now on your screen. And remember, this does start off with Eimy for no particular reason, jumping in, missing his slingshot, but it's the follow-up from FPX that you're looking at. The reaction from LWX, bring in the Alistar, and then it's followed up with the Pulverize. You've got the Kled ultimate, you've got the Azir ultimate. They're all just completely locked in place, and that's so good from FPX to work with their team composition. And again, you know how good they can be when they're ahead in the early game. LGD give them the lead, they close it out very early, and it is a very sound showing from FunPlus Phoenix.
Yeah, and this is where we look to the likes of Bing, the new mid laner. You mentioned the fact that he does have a little bit of stage fright coming into his first split here, and then he puts on a performance like that with the Azir, getting multiple fights, counting it out over the duration. I think it was a good 8-9 seconds of crowd control and just AoE stacking up over and over. Of course, we were slowing down and speeding up to exaggerate effects, so it's probably closer to like 6 and 7, but still, that is a huge amount of, I guess, communication that we're seeing with the team. Synergy, now that he's starting to fit in. And that creates turns FPX into something even more scary.
And you have to look at Bing as one of these pivotal points for the FunPlus Phoenix roster on if they want to reach a better tier in performance, if they want to be in the playoffs, they want to be above in the playoffs even further than 4th place, right? Bing, he said he was nervous. Well, the nerves have started to go away, and he's running out of reasons to be nervous until playoffs, when it becomes all back again and cascades down on you with the nerves there. This performance, getting all of the kills that he got, the quadra followed by another triple to end the game. Going into the second game, he will be completely warmed up, you would have to imagine now. There should be no nerves. And FunPlus Phoenix, if they looked good in that game, you're expecting something even better from them coming into the next one, because there should be no nerves.
So that being said, he will take our MVP for this Game 1 performance. So if we are seeing something better than MVP, better than a 10-0-6 scoreline, Rusty, what on earth could that be?
Leaving lane a little bit more is something that I'd be looking towards. The reason that he was able to do so well was actually a result of Eimy and Yuuki's poor trading, and it worked out really nicely for Bing. Whilst the trades went across, he gets a bit of a snowball and advantage, and that did work out. There was a teleport bottom, but he wasn't necessary to be a feature within that gank. Next time, what we're expecting from him is continue the same strong laning, but have more meaningful teleports to influence the map.
Well, we'll have to see if he can pull it together in this Game 2. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break while we get that ready for you. So don't touch your browsers. We'll be right back.